Something, all right,
At
and
least
then
it's
she'll
better
just
than-
kind of hover up in the distance.
Yeah, it's like this, and you know, like it's like this. That's how they.
Mhm.
It's like, you know,
But at least
like-
she wasn't.
Oh, yeah, we don't tolerate that.
Folks, it looks like it's about 7 o'clock. So I'm going to call to order this March 2nd meeting of the Planning Commission. Could we have roll call?
Chairman Rifle,
Present.
Commissioner Tuggle,
Present.
Commissioner Jonas, Commissioner Carlson,
Here.
Commissioner Weber,
Here.
Commissioner Hawley,
Here.
Commissioner Schulberg.
Present.
Thank you for reading that. I'm glad we went through the roll here because it's been so long since we met. You know, I remember who we are, so that's good. So excellent.
Mr. Chairman, may I move to excuse Mr. Jonas?
Is there a second?
Support.
It's been moved and seconded. We given excuse the absence for Roger Jonas for this meeting. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We've given him a pass. Okay, consideration for approval of the March 2nd agenda. Before we take a motion on this or make a decision, looking carefully at item number 6 and number 7 on our agenda here tonight and observing Mr. Camps is here with us, I got to tell you, I'm having trouble thinking how I could come up with an answer to number 6 without knowing what's going to happen in number 7. And so I'm wondering, is it possible that we could merge these two items and we can take actions based on the merged result? Does that make any sense to anyone? That we can do that, right?
Yeah, we can do that, but when it comes to official vote on those in the future, they're gonna have to be two separate items because they're, you know, the rezoning is a separate issue.
Correct. And that is after the joint discussion of both.
Yeah.
Then we'll make, if we want to make a motion. Okay? So I'm going to suggest before we approve this, that we kind of merge items 6 and 7. Any other thoughts about the agenda here? If not, Chair would entertain a motion to approve it as modified with.
So moved.
Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. We accept the agenda for tonight's meeting with the modification of item number 6 and 7 being merged for discussion purposes. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we've done that. Thank you very much. Okay, let's move on to consider approving the minutes of the January 5, 2023 meeting. Craig has dutifully prepared those and included them in our packet. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes as prepared? And if not, Chair would entertain a motion to accept them.
So moved.
A second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we accept the January 5, 2023 minutes as prepared. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, we have approved it. Thank you. Okay, we're down to item number 5, public comments. And at our Planning Commission meetings, it's customary to give members of the public opportunity to share thoughts that they may have with us. I see a couple of members of the public out here. If you would like to share anything apart from comments about items 6 or 7, I'd invite you to come to the podium, state your name and your address, and share your thoughts with us. Not seeing anyone jump to the podium, we're going to close the minutes or the public comment section at 7:04. Okay, let's move on to items 6 and 7. And item 6 says, discuss and take action about whether scheduling a public hearing to request a suggestion by Mr. Camps to amend the city code for a certain parcel of land there from RG2 to its GC, not GD, right? It's a GD there. And then item 7 is discussion and take action for appropriate schedule a public hearing to amend city code 154 zoning, article blah, blah, blah. There's what's allowed in various zoning districts to allow accessory upper floor dwelling units in the general commercial zoning district. And I think it would be very helpful if Mr. Camps could kind of just lay out where he's going. And I know that in your comments, somewhere in here, you indicate that you have an option to buy that parcel of land to the north. And that's the whole area that's on the map here that's pink, right? The general commercial district?
Yeah, up to
Van Wagner.
Van Wagner.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we'd all benefit by having you.
You bet.
You know, you have a very good track record with the Planning Commission, and I think with the City of Ferrysburg for all the good things you have proposed and done, and we've certainly tried to work with you.
Absolutely.
And we enjoy doing that. And so I'm thinking in a positive way here. Hopefully, we can find a way to help your vision come through. So share
Awesome.
with us what's up.
So Todd Camps, 17472 West Spring Lake Road. So thank you for meeting and letting us present this. So the property is owned by the Kniff family. Russ is here representing their family. So I'm sure if there's any questions, we can pose those. So as we discussed when we met 2-3 months ago, it was kind of a concept. I had been talking with Russ and his brother about us purchasing the two, what I'll call the larger parcel, 11-ish acres, plus or minus. After discussions with them, some of the north parcel is wet, and so through a number of conversations, we came to the conclusion of they wanted to just put an agreement in place with us for the plus or minus 4 acres to the south, and that's what I think is shown on the diagram that you guys have now. It is our hope that we would still be able to acquire the whole parcel, so we're still in conversations on that. So the what is shown and being talked about today, again, I think is for the general commercial to be allowed in from the Van Wagner to the south edge of the what I call the 4-acre parcel, which is south of the drain that runs through there. So on that piece, I guess I would call that our phase 1. We wanted to do another 9-unit building, which is what we did at Van Wagner, Verplank in second. Update some colors, some finishes, but be very similar uses. And then what we did a little bit different here is then added 3 parcels. I've had some conversation with some folks already that have had some interest in having a standalone building on those parcel 1, 2, or 3. Jamie and I are looking at potentially parcel 2 for ourselves to do a building there, that he and I would hang on to. We originally talked about doing that on Carmen and doing the live, kind of that live work. But I have a family that's asking me to sell them and basically build that same concept for them. They recently built a home out on North Shore Drive. They have a winter home down in Florida, and they want to do something there where they could store boats, RVs, things like that, but they want to have like a guest apartment, so if they have family, friends, and they could put them there, but yet still have the lower level as storage. They've actually talked about doing like a little workout studio in there. So I'm talking with them about doing that on Carmen, and then if we do that, then Jamie and I were talking about potentially keeping lot 2 for a building just for us. So pretty straightforward, bringing a road in, doing a 9-unit building to the south. As I said, very similar to what we've done on the other projects, and then having 2 or 3 other buildable lots. And I've had conversation already with a couple folks that would like us to do something there for them. Ultimately, then, hopefully we're able to put something together on the north piece, and then really kind of continue the idea, and develop going to the north like we had talked about. Try to keep some of the property on the corner of Van Wagner and 174th. So if we did have some kind of commercial use, if it, be a dentist or, maybe a rep sales office, maybe insurance, it's hard to say, but, have something like that. Office is super challenging today. There's not too many people developing office right now. It's the whole COVID effect, and working from home is still pretty challenging. We've got another partner and I have had some office outside of this area, and it's just not real desirable. So I would hope, again, if we get, maybe it's an orthodontist or a medical practice or something like that, where we could incorporate some commercial on that Van Wagner corner. We'd still like to do that, assuming that we're able to acquire the rest of the property.
Let me give a follow-up question or two, and then my fellow planning commission members will probably have some
Okay.
thoughts. Somewhere on there, you talked about lots 1, 2, and 3 having residential on it. Is that right?
Not residential, no. It would
No.
be, again, we'd love to be able to offer that same concept like we did, like we've talked about on Carmen, where you could have the storage below, kind of the commercial building, and then with the ability to have living space above. So if we're able to do that as we offered on the other parcel, that was our hope. I don't have anyone lined up for that, but I think I still like that concept.
That's in light industrial 1, that zone there. And we did approve changing that
Yes.
to allow that concept there.
Correct.
We don't have that now for general commercial
Okay.
in the zoning. In fact, right now, just a second here. That concept where you have a business and then residence on top, in the service district, it's a special land use. That's in the downtown area. Yeah. In the central commercial, core commercial, it's a special land use there. But in the general commercial, it's not permitted. And in LI1, it's a special land use. So we have to think about where you're headed here. And I think my fellow commissioners will have to weigh in on this. It's one thing to suggest we could put that southern parcel to allow the concept that's in light industrial 1 down in Carmen and generalize it for all the general commercial districts. That's a whole nother, that's.
Yeah, no,
It's a bridge
absolutely.
quite far.
Yes, I'm very flexible on that, as we talked about it. a few years ago when I think I first introduced it, just talked about the concept, right? And if we're able to offer something like that, if you don't feel that this is the right zone to allow that here, I understand that. That doesn't, I, that doesn't change our intentions with what we want to do here for the current piece or the northern piece. But if we thought that that would be beneficial, I'm very open to it, but do not have to have that.
We rezoned that part, it can't go as residential, it's residential right now, so you
Right.
can't do that right now. But if we zoned it to light industrial 1, then you could do that, because it's been approved
Correct.
for that type of
Correct.
district. And there is some light industrial 1 further to the east there. So, just so you're aware, what's allowed under the ordinance as it exists right now.
Yes, yep, no, I understand that, and again, I'm super flexible, so now I'm gonna say I'm now gonna stand here as a resident and just, if we think, not me now as this developer, but if we think as someone that lives in Ferrysburg that this is something that we would like to be able to offer, if that, we're all thinking that's a good idea, then if that changes that zoning to allow for it, I know spot zoning is never a good discussion or topic, so my original thought was maybe we do that on this piece, and Craig and I even talked about with this being general commercial, so yes, I'm aware that that doesn't fall into there. If we think that for this larger parcel, call it the 1213, we're not all loving this concept for this property here, I'm totally fine with that. That wouldn't change the direction on what we want to do here. I just wouldn't be able to offer that.
Helpful for us, I think, to know if you proceed to get the parcel to the north, are you going to want to do something like this there too? Because otherwise we could change the classification for both parcels to LI1.
Again, I love the idea and the concept. If we think that going to the light industrial for the whole piece is what we would have support for, I would be all for that, because I think it's a neat thing to offer someone. I like the concept, but again, if you guys aren't thinking you want to head down that direction, and we just did the general commercial, I'm okay with that. That either one, we would be able to proceed with what we've kind of envisioned there for the whole parcel. But I like the concept. So when I propose that to this couple, that's interested in Carmen, they love that idea. They're like, oh wow, that's so cool. We could do a little apartment. We can have that. They had a big home in Ada. They sold that. They had a guest house on their property. They don't have that on their new Lake Michigan house, just because of the size of the property. So they thought, oh, what a great thing. We can store our boat in the car, put the camper there. His wife wanted some kind of nice exercise studio. And then I told them about the concept of having the apartment up above. They love that idea. And they wouldn't have that rented out. They were going to use that as a guest, for their guests when they come, into town during the summer. So, again, I like the concept, and it gives us something, again, Ferrysburg, it gives us something that's not being offered, in Spring Lake or Grand Haven. So that was kind of the thought process with the other development. I think it makes it easier, absolutely, if we then do the I-1, because then it's allowed use. Am I saying that right, Craig? It would be an allowed use or special land use. That absolutely makes it easier, and we're not, then I'm not coming back and saying, hey, I got one or two people that would like to do it. I probably wouldn't even offer it because I realize that's gonna make it hard for all of us to, so how do we do that for lot 2 and 3 on what I've shown you? Give them, somebody the okay there, but then when I come back and say, hey, on this, number 4 and phase 3 building off in Wagner, now somebody wants it, but we're not zoned there. And to do, I think Craig and I talked a little bit about that, to try to split the zoning with, like between the north and the south. I mean, there's a natural creek there, so I guess it could be. I don't know if, again, I would say then, I don't know if we'd want to, and I say we, as a Ferrysburg resident, do we want to try to split those, or do you want one larger zone? Again, I love the idea to be able to offer it, because it's not something that's out there. So I guess it's comfort level now. Are we okay with instead of general commercial to the I-1? I guess that's the question.
Thank you for sharing all that. I've been monopolizing the questions here, so I'm going to shut up here and let my fellow commissioners interact. So please, colleagues.
Can we pull out that map? And
I know that's what I was looking for.
so we're looking right here, and then this is the upper part.
Yes.
Okay, so they're both zoned different right now, and then we've got a different zone right now.
Mr. Chairman, I asked Craig for kind of a 101 class review of what variances have been granted per request. And I sent them to you. I hope you all got them. For some reason, they weren't going through. But one thing that I think we do need to make sure that everything is consistent with the master plan. That's what I took away from all of that. I also looked over Mr. Jurosik's information, and he said that the general commercial needs to be amended to allow storage facilities because we don't allow them right now. And I know Roger has said he's in favor of this, and I really trust him because he's been here a long time and really is. He's a master planner, and we know you have a good relationship with us and you're willing to work with us. I am a little bit concerned that we're giving up any kind of regulation, and as Mr. Jurosik says, and I quote, "My concern in allowing use in LL1 and 2 is that beyond traditional mini warehousing or self-storage and then allowing it to proliferate in GC without properly regulating it. I do not think this is a negative use, but future developers may not have the same quality of product as camps," and that worries me a little bit. But I do know that this has been rezoned before, and also that we've been trying to get somebody to develop that area for a long time, and no one's picking us up on it. And that is our basic entrance for many people from Muskegon and, Norton Shores and all of those areas. So, if it can be done attractively and be a welcome to Ferrysburg and give people jobs and opportunities, I think it's a good idea. 2 cents.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I have 2 things. Number one, could you rehash the difference between general commercial and LI1 and the features and benefits of each?
Zoning book, each one has.
Give me the Cliff Notes version.
Section 9.
It's more industrial LI, and general commercial is more banks, hair salons, whatever.
Yep.
So, and
Right, when we talked about on the corner, originally we
Have to
talked
see
That
about,
would have to be general commercial,
let's look.
you're saying.
I brought my book.
Right.
Yes.
Excuse me, Mr.
Yeah.
Chair.
Yes.
So I did have some conversations with Mr. Drosik about this, and he had a concern if that property was zoned to LI industrial, because he would consider that almost spot zoning. There's no other light industrial property around there. It borders by residential, and then the Trillium is general commercial in that area. So to change that area to light industrial, he had a concern. If the planning commission is interested in moving forward with that, this thought would be to rezone the southern half to the general commercial, and then amend the zoning ordinance to allow that Mr. Camps is asking for as a permitted or a special land use in the general commercial zone district.
Craig, you're talking about doing both parcels as general.
The top north parcel is general currently.
Okay.
So we would have to rezone the 4 acres to the south as general commercial. And if that was done, then you would amend the zoning ordinance to allow the use that Mr. Camps requesting.
Okay.
Then that would allow us still to do some commercial if we have, you know, some interest in doing that off from Van Wagner on that corner.
Any potential concerns for other areas that could also then be special land use of live work and other commercial manufacturing type areas of people living in them?
So if you look at the zoning map against the wall there, anything in the pink is general commercial. So you got the Olympics, you got the corner, north corner that Mr. Camps is referring to, and then to the east you got the Trillium Banquet Center and the Business Center, and then on the other side of the highway you got iMove and that office building in there.
LI1 there too, before you get to the highway.
Right, that's where the substation is in that area. I think that's LI2, as I recall. I think that's the only LI2 piece in the city.
And I personally don't see an issue with changing that southern portion to general commercial. But
I think David's concern was that you're gonna have lots of people wanting to come in various places here and say, well, I want to do something like that too. And I guess we could say no, and then they'd say, well, you'll let Todd Camps do it. Why not me?
Yeah, as I think as Craig was saying, with the general commercial, then our use would be a special use inside of that, which I'm comfortable with, because I think as we had talked about, you know, there was support for that, and as long as there's support for that, you know, then I can, you know, we would work within those guidelines.
Actually, wherever it exists right now, it's a special land use. In the service district and in the core commercial, it's a special land use. And in LI1, it's a special land use. So wherever it happens, it has to come before this body.
It would be
Residential.
it would be per case, as I understand, right? I'd have to come back and say, here's our phase 2 and get support for that, correct?
Correct.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought. Yeah, so it wouldn't be an allowed use for the whole thing.
That's what would be required. We would have to recommend that to city council, and they would have to change the ordinance to allow that.
Mr. Chair, I said I had two things. The second thing is, council, at our last meeting, we approved the Economic Development Task Force report. And you chaired that. Good job.
Oh, awesome.
That being said, how does this fit in with what's being proposed, with what your group visualized happening there?
Talked about encouraging development both on Van Wagner and on 174th. So this is consistent with that.
I did have a question for Mr. Camps as well. In your
Okay.
application for rezoning, one of the things that I had read the other night was the reason for requesting zoning was to develop small site condo for use as personal storage facilities and or live work concept.
Oh.
What is live work?
That would be live.
That would be what?
Live.
Live work concept.
But I want you to be alive
Okay.
while you're living.
Yeah, okay.
Mortuary.
I tripped over that one too.
Okay.
Then I figured out what.
Sorry.
So does this, do we have to, when you actually develop, let's say, parcel A or parcel B, you'd have to come forward with the parking plan and the whole 9 yards, or is that
Yeah.
correct, Craig?
It's a special land use, yes.
Okay. I was reading that about live work, and I'm thinking to myself of some general contractor, and he's got his office in there, and he's got traffic going to and fro, and I could see cars parked all over the cul-de-sac and that type of thing. That was the vision I had in my mind.
Yeah, so we've talked, I'm having discussions right now with West Shore Engineering and our attorney about our envision is the whole piece will be part of a site condo. So we'll have bylaws. So where we don't allow at, say, Channel Side 2, we don't allow RVs parked overnight. I think it's a day, isn't it? Maybe like, is it even 24 hours, Craig? Or I'm not even sure they can stay overnight. But I mean, we'll do the similar bylaws that we've had on the other two developments. If you have 4 parking spaces, you know, and you're parking 8 cars there, and they're, you know, we're going to have a discussion about that. I've got a young gentleman leasing over at you know, the first phase of Channel Side, and I've had to remind him now 2 or 3 times that, you know, 2 trailers don't get to stay outside night after night. And grandma's car, I know grandma went to the nursing home, but that doesn't mean that grandma's car now gets to sit outside. So he had, you know, the other day he had 3 of our parking spaces tied up for 3 or 4 days. And so we would do, you know, very similar. I would envision, you know, that we would have that. Again, my hope in the 9-unit building is we have some small business. You know, we have the electrician, we have the plumber. Right now we don't have, so I do commercial real estate also, right? So I don't know if somebody called me today and said they wanted 2,500 square feet for a small business. I don't know where I would put them. I just took one of my tenants and I sold him a building in Muskegon. He needed more space. I didn't have any more units for him. He's renting one. He bought one, and you know, I'm going to lose him as a tenant, and now I'm going to sell his unit because he had to move up to Muskegon. You know, he needed 5,000 square feet. So I talked to my builder last night. We're looking at a little different structure and roofing system that would allow maybe flexibility on our demising walls. So what I asked them to look into yesterday, instead of having just a 25 by 70, that we go every other unit where I don't have to have the interior wall be supportive. So if you came along and said, hey, I really need 2 of these. I want a small office. I need 3-4 trucks in here. I need, shelving for all my PVC and my parts for my plumbing business, that, somebody could take a couple units. So we had some discussion about that just last night. So, I absolutely foresee, I showed a lady through yesterday. Her husband was down in Florida, so he wasn't there, but they want, a nice place to store their boat. They want to do a mezzanine. They want to do a bar, sitting area. They want to do the, man cave, lady cave, whatever you want to call it. But, so I think we'll see a fair amount of that again, which I think is a great use. You have a taxpayer who's not putting a whole lot of, asking for a lot of infrastructure. There's not a lot of traffic. And I'm hopeful we get a couple small businesses that A, come, or B, don't leave, because now we have, some options for them. The live piece of it, I'm not sure you were on the commission when we talked about that on Carmen, but that whole concept was, we had, I think, an 18-foot sidewall height, and then we took the back corner of a unit, and it was like a 2,500 foot or about a 3,000 foot unit, and then we laid out like 1,000 square foot apartment up above. So that was thinking, you have maybe a place in Florida and a nice RV. You come back here for the summer. You can park your RV inside. Mom and dad can live up in the apartment, have a place, for their stuff, unload the Harley in the enclosed trailer, put that inside, and then enjoy West Michigan for the summer, and then take off, in the winter. So that was kind of our idea. I think I have somebody that wants to now execute that on Carmen. Be cool if we can do it here, but if that create, again, I agree. I think having both of these consistent is best. It would be easier for me if they were both light industrial, but I don't know if I'd even want to suggest that, because I think the general commercial for the community, for the land, is probably the best use. And then I'll try to work inside of, that box, which I think we can with what we want to do. The exception might be the live, could be real challenging, or would we have that opportunity as a special use in the general commercial or not?
Right now, it's not permitted at all. Warehousing is not permitted. So
right.
You got to amend the zoning ordinance to allow the warehousing. And if the commission wants the option to live and work there, then they have to make that as part of the amendment.
Oh, okay. So we could do that right now along with the warehouse
It's up
storage.
to the planning commission and ultimately city council.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
I have a question for Craig. It used to be if you had a live-work situation, if you had a business in your home, for instance, you could only have so much traffic per day, et cetera. Is that still in force? Or would this be a totally different situation because it's not in a residential area?
Right, it's different. So
Okay.
this would be a commercial or industrial that has different regulations for number of customers and so forth. Home occupation or residential, you can only have so many deliveries and customers per day.
Okay. Also, so if we proceed with the public hearing tonight, can we tonight name the use specifically for GCLI 1 and 2? Because as Mr. Jarosik pointed out, we don't have any authorization for storage facilities right now in that area. We could amend that tonight, correct?
Not tonight, we can't do that. We would have to schedule a
But we
public hearing.
could put that into what we were giving to the public.
Yes.
Okay, because I appreciate your being patient with us because you came to us a long time ago and said you were thinking of buying this. And when I was on council, we had a lot of people complain about how stringent our rules are, but I know they're there for a reason. But I think a
Which
couple
I
of meetings
support.
ago, we talked for 10 minutes about how many shrubs could go in front of a building. So, you know, there's a purpose for it, but I'm sure it gets a little frustrating, and I appreciate your being patient with
Yeah,
us.
you bet. You're welcome.
Mr. Chair, where's Sandy? You chosen? Okay. Mr. Camps, what are you visualizing for the north parcel? It's too deep for one building across the whole depth.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
A roadway, and then you'd turn this into a path coming down the center of that thing and tying into this road across the retention pond,
Yeah.
or what do you, what's your concept? Go ahead.
We already did a preliminary layout of this. Again, we envisioned potentially trying to leave this piece commercial.
Yeah.
Then we had a drive coming in.
Any concept of tying the two roads together?
These two?
No, your cul-de-sac.
No, that's a creek. And
Okay.
that, my opinion is.
Yeah, he is.
All flats with wetland.
Okay, very good. All right.
I walked this, I don't know if you've been way back here, Rob, but this- so to tie.
Just in the springtime like it is now, hopefully?
I walked that this fall.
Oh, okay.
It was last.
Oh,
So
okay.
I don't, my hope is this would be then retention that I would need to allow, the buildings that would sit. So that, I mean, that would.
And there's no way to cross the creek in order to put a building across that thing to make that little triangle piece usable.
So this drops off.
If this was
quite a
your
bit.
retention pond for both areas.
Right here is a pond right now.
Oh, okay.
Already on the property.
Very good.
That was dug, must probably tell us, like 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Folks and pulled them out.
Yeah.
Across this.
I wasn't sure what your thoughts were.
I don't think.
Okay.
That would probably be a really.
Yeah.
I just had one quick question, and I guess if anybody could help me understand why, if there would be any reason why we wouldn't want warehousing in the commercial, I mean, it seems like it would be an easy fit to me, and it seems like it would fit in, but I see that it's not permitted, so I'm wondering if anybody has any feedback of maybe why that was written in that way. Because, I mean, it seems like it would be a natural fit to me, but.
Well, commercial is more of your retail, businesses.
Sure.
And warehousing, when this was written, 1999, was the steel warehouse, which wasn't conducive for economic development in the commercial district.
I like this concept a lot, and I feel like for this particular use, it can accomplish the commercial aspect of it as well. But I do see how that example could be a problem.
Yeah, and I think we've probably, as a community, have waited a long time. I'm gonna say maybe as a landowner, they've waited a long time, hoping for retail, traditional commercial. Hasn't been there. I don't have I mean, I've got a lot of years in the industry, and I'm gonna say it probably won't be coming in the near future, right? I mean, again, looking at as the world has changed, as COVID has forced us to change, I challenge any of you to ask if Amazon's come to your house in the last day. I could start with a week, but How about tonight from when you got home before you came to the came to this meeting, right? I bet you someone had Amazon or someone pull in. So the retail shopping patterns have changed. Service is still gonna happen, right? And good retail is gonna still thrive. You know, I think the downtown and retail and people doing retail well is going to continue to do well. But if you had, I mean, when the office buildings were built next to the Trillium, the developer at the time asked me to work on that. I suggested we do 2 buildings and do it in phases. Well, it's not cost effective. I understand it's not cost effective when the cement truck comes and the excavator comes and they can clear that whole thing and start building buildings. It's way more cost effective. But I don't know if any of you followed that. Several, like the framer ended up with liens on 2 or 3 buildings. He took those as payment. I mean, I was trying to lease those things up for years, and it took a long time. So in that market's tougher today. So as much as we might like to see that be more of a commercial, typical commercial, I don't see it. I like, you know, this concept because it allows for some small business. We're not looking to put a big factory here, you know, but to, you know, allow small business to work here or work and or live here, and nice, you know, storage unit, not a, you know, again, we're not looking to go build row with a 10-foot by 10-foot bay. You know, we're not in, we want to do, again, something nicer. And we've got some, I think, some nice colors and concepts even that we're looking at that I would say are even a little bit, a little nicer look, I think, than even what we've done on the last building.
Yeah, I think it's a great concept. We want, I think it matches with the economic plan. So I would like to see us try to accommodate Easter camp the best way that we can. And it sounds like that would be switching to general commercial with caveat.
So it seems like the consensus of the planning commission is to move ahead with the rezone and move ahead with the text amendments, allow the warehousing. So do you want to take the next step and allow the live and work, or just want to stick with the warehousing for now?
If we do the warehousing, you would still move forward with your plans? That
Yes.
the live work
Yeah.
isn't going to break necessarily?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. I still like that idea as we think about housing and housing needs. I mean, I'd love to say we could have 10 or 15, you know, people doing residences, but I think it's like when we did the first phase and I talked to people about doing a mezzanine and then you could do a little bar hangout area underneath. They're like, oh yeah, okay. And then we did one. In our last 9-unit building, I think 6 of the 9 are finished that way, and some of them are really nice. Like, yeah, really, really nice. Like, you know, where they spent $180,000 to buy the unit, they spent another 100 or 150 building their, you know, hangout. The ones on Verplank, and none of them are living there. They're just they built, like, you know, on the mezzanine. They got a pool table. They got their, you know, their hunting animals hanging. They got a little shop area below. Some of them, you know, have a nice bar area with, you know, a wine cooler and, you know, big screen TV, and, you know, you got your motor home out front. And
You don't have any of that at Channel Storage, though.
I don't have anyone doing the living at Channel Side. I had one, didn't we have one or maybe we had one build out that way, I don't remember now. But the majority of them are mezzanines. My point, people thought it sounded good when they saw it, then I started doing a bunch of them. So it would, if we could get a couple built where they had that live ability, you know, maybe we could sell more folks on that concept. Again, I love the idea from a retirement, you know, someone that's maybe a full-time resident in Florida, but they're coming up here. This is where they used to live. They're here for June, July, August, September, and then they're gone again. I think it's a great idea. Not sure I'm going to get my wife talked into it yet, but I'd like to be a guinea pig.
Mr. Chairman, I think one of the selling points for me is we have a continual problem, regardless of how we amend our zoning, of people storing RVs and boats and all kinds of stuff in their yards. And if you can have somebody right here in town where you can store your RV and not get in trouble with the city or count the days that you're allowed to have it in your driveway, I
Right,
think that's a real
right.
selling point for people.
Yep.
And the zoning ordinance to allow warehousing and the live work concept.
Inside of general commercial.
Is-
Okay, it would still have to come.
Anything that's a special land use would have to come here, and if it's something that the user's proposing, something that would need a lot of parking, then we'd have the ability to say, wait a second, need to do this or that.
Warehousing is a special land use then, and then it wouldn't be so broad, or are we saying we're gonna rezone this to allow warehousing?
Rezone it. Then it'd be general commercial. Then if you want, then the next step would be to amend the zoning ordinance to allow warehousing and live to work as a special land use inside the general commercial zone district. General commercial, anything in pink.
How many other general commercial parcels are there, Craig, that are vacant? I mean, what are we,
Number of them.
okay,
Well,
there are
just
gen-
that north of I move has that parcel.
oh, okay, which that's the only other piece? I mean,
Yeah, I think so. That's all.
again, if you think about, right, where that is, right along the highway, right along in Wagner, you have apartments there, frankly, I'd support that use. I mean, I wouldn't look at that and say, oh, that's gonna create problems. Again, I'm just talking in general, I don't own it, I'm not trying to buy it, but to your point, if this is then allowed, you know, I think you say, okay, as I just asked, what other parcels are we looking at and do we have any potential problem? If that's the other piece, that one's easy. Just north of the I-move, on the other side of the highway, east side of the highway, right at the off-ramp when you're heading northbound. And then inside of that, me or somebody else, Craig, would still have to come with a site plan, with a design that's properly engineered, that meets the aesthetics, that meets the parking, that meets the retention, meets the water, and you have input on all of that,
That's correct.
right? Okay.
So if the consensus of planning commission wants to move that way, we're gonna have Mr. DeRosa draft some language up to look at, and the question now is, do you want to schedule a public hearing, or you want to look at the language first and schedule a public hearing a month later?
Are you under timelines? or
Yes.
Time deadlines?
Yeah, so if you think about the timing, I would have loved to have been here 60 or 90 days ago. We've spent some money already with West Shore Engineering, but not a lot, right? Because we want to make sure we get to the next step with an approval to move forward tonight. Then Jamie and I were going to start that process. So we've got to do the design, and then we wait for the final approvals. I think Craig and I looked at schedules. That was going to be 60 to 90 days if we kept moving at a good pace, which puts me in March, April, May. So now I'm breaking ground. Hopefully, now I've got to excavate, I got to clear, I got to balance the site, I got to put in a road, I got to put in infrastructure. And I was really hoping to have that building up and have some units available for the fall. If I can't start that first building on time, as a developer, as the owner, we're not going to want to have the building half done in October and not be able to offer anybody a unit or two. So it would probably push us, out 6 to, well, yeah, I was going to say it literally, we'd probably wait to, I might get the clearing, probably still do that and maybe do that towards the end of the summer, clear, balance, put the road in, but then wait probably till next spring. Then I'm a year out before I start the first building.
No, you have to, if you want to schedule a public hearing, you can always do that. And if there's language that, if there's a major change to the language that he's proposing, we could postpone the public hearing and finish it on May.
I'm sorry, one other question though. If we did the public hearing based on the language that David does, we still, as the planning commission, have the ability to change it based on the public hearing.
Correct. But if it's a major change, then you probably want to republish it or something like that.
Right.
Can we have a quick meeting and he could do it in a week or so and then schedule the public hearing for the next meeting, which it would be anyway. So like in
Special meeting, planning commission to review the
yes,
language?
to approve the language, and then it might only take 15 minutes or something, and then schedule the public hearing as it would have been anyway in April.
I can review Mr. Jorosik's schedule, Jen, so it depends on what his schedule is, if he can prepare something that quick, but I sure can look into that, and if that happens, we can schedule a special meeting, sure.
David is very
you.
experienced, and I think when you share with him what we're asking, he can probably draft something that's pretty much,
Not gonna be that.
yeah, it's not that complicated. He's done this before. The problem of having a special meeting is we might be running into deadlines. In other words, if David is on vacation and he won't be able to get this done for 2 weeks, and then we have a meeting after that, we might be up against a deadline for when this has to be publicly available for that next planning commission meeting. Am I correct?
We could probably still move forward and get everything ready, anticipating that. There'll be minor changes, if any, to the language proposed.
Don't worry about a special meeting.
No, we could still do the special meeting, but I'm not too concerned about a deadline.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, what are your preferences, folks? Special meeting or not?
Question is the language going to be complicated enough to require a special meeting? Because it seems like it's pretty straightforward. It would be a pretty straightforward change. Can you guys see anything that would be unusual in the language that we would need to talk about, or is it pretty straightforward?
I don't see anything, and I think we're still, even if we have a public hearing, we're allowed to make slight tweaks to the language.
Personally don't see the need for a special meeting, but if everybody else wants to, then go with the consensus.
Illegal to do that via email? These are the changes, approve or not? No?
No.
Uh,
So, Mr.
That's
Drosik, you know, just,
That
Mr.
sounds
Drosik
easier.
just did some language for the special, or for the special land use for light industrial. I'm sure he'll mirror that for the general commercial.
Okay.
So, are we okay to ask Mr. Jurosik to devise this language for a public hearing at our next meeting? And do you want to do the second thing as well? Have language, I think, he actually, in his memo, he says, GC also needs to be amended to allow storage facilities. I mean, we could have him do that too, right?
Mr. Chair, I think the thought was to have a special meeting in case Mr. Jurosik gets it done early. Correct? For a hearing, is that correct? No? We can only do a hearing at our scheduled meeting.
Yeah, because, you know, the public hearing is gonna be published next week or something like that for the
Okay.
notice. Yeah, has to be 15 days before, so, you know, we got 15 days to get it going. Okay.
Not gonna have a special meeting. We're gonna ask David to do this, and we'll go ahead and schedule the public hearing at our next monthly meeting.
And then you'll have the 2 items added to it, like you were saying, Craig? Okay. Yeah, that would be awesome. And I think supported.
So I think we need a motion here to, first of all, change the zoning on that parcel of land from RG2, which is medium density residential, to general commercial, GC.
That motion?
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we recommend that we have a public hearing to change the zoning on that parcel of land. Craig, when we do a change of zoning, all the owners around there are notified, right? And they're,
Correct, yep.
so it's not just, you read about it, it's happening, but you reach out to them and say,
Yes.
yeah. So, it's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Okay, let's call the issue then. All in favor of this motion to hold a public hearing to discuss changing the zoning on that parcel, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, that's unanimous. And then, I think David thinks we need some changes in the ordinance to allow storage facilities in GC. So we don't need a public hearing for that. But we would need a public hearing to make as a special use upper floor dwelling units over a business in the GC district.
So we would need a public hearing would encompass both items,
We
The
can
gen-
do it in one
Yeah.
package?
because it's gonna amend the zoning ordinance. Yep.
All right, even better. So do we need a special motion on that?
No, just consensus to schedule a public hearing to amend the zoning ordinance next meeting. Or you can have a motion, if you like to make a motion.
Well, my point is, so let's suppose we have the public hearing, we go ahead and recommend to city council, we change that zoning, but we also want to move that we can have living above a unit in there. That's a separate issue.
text amendment, right, Craig? So two things. First, allowing storage, work, or commercial storage. Secondly, allowing inside of the general commercial. And then secondly, allowing the live work inside of the general commercial along with the storage, correct?
Correct. That'd be one public hearing to amend the zoning ordinance.
Are we going to tell David that we want storage to be a special or principal permitted use?
Discussion wants to have a special land use.
Special land use for that. And also special for having the residential. So you've got, you know, what to tell David.
Yes.
So essentially, we've done 6 and 7 together, right?
I think you started out with that.
Yeah, that's why I went there, yes, okay. All right, anything else? So, did we vote on that?
Yeah, I thought we did. No, we didn't. I think we made a motion on that.
Should I have a motion for number 7, please? To amend the zoning ordinance.
Allow for storage facilities in general commercial and to allow as a special land use, dwelling units on the second floor of those units. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any further discussion? Okay, let's call the issue. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We've done it. Wow, you guys are good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Council.
Appreciate it. Yeah, appreciate it very much.
We appreciate your patience in working with us.
No, it's, yeah, I understand it, and, there, yeah, I, as I've said, I think all along, I try to look at these not only as with a developer hat on, but somebody that lives here and enjoys the community. And I mean, if I thought it was a crazy idea, I wouldn't be suggesting it, so, thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks. Thank you. We are down to item number 8, public comments. Again, would anyone from the public like to make any comments about anything at this point? Okay, not seeing that, we're going to close the public comments section here at 8:07. Let's move on to a zoning administrator's report.
So I received a contact, and the question was, right now in the general commercial veterinarian office is special land use. In the core commercial, all the purple in that area, a veterinary office is not allowed. Is there any interest in the planning commission on allowing a veterinarian office in the core commercial? Veterinarian. It's not permitted in the core commercial. Correct.
Is this someone that's already existing in our city, or is that
Is the
another
core commercial,
entity?
this purple.
Right.
Because I
was
know
just
there's a
looking at
vet
one of
in the
Lepping's
Lepping's
there,
Plaza,
so I
but
didn't know
she
what that
can't
was.
board animals or
General.
anything like that, so it's not that
Lepping's right
person,
Yeah,
right?
okay.
That's correct. This would be for a vacant piece of property in the core commercial. It's very close to a Pizza Hut.
I'd be interested in it.
Greg, is the thought, any retail along with that, or is it just gonna be one unit for veterinary clinic?
Didn't get too much details. He just said there would be a new office. Correct. And this isn't, there's putting feelers out right now to find out if there's any interest in the planning commission to allow that.
I feel like we need to be open, because we've been trying to attract businesses to the city for a long time, so maybe we need to be open with what we allow here. If it, as long as it's, you know, fits with revision in the master plan and everything. That's really needed.
We'll keep continuing to ask what is gonna happen with that property, so.
Yeah,
there's
right?
vacant lots that have sat vacant for a
Pizza
long
Hut's
time.
not coming back.
Did you hear enough, Craig?
Sorry?
Did you hear enough about that?
Yes, thank you. That's all I had.
Thank you. Chairman's report. Okay, at the last meeting, I mentioned that this Economic Development Task Force had just submitted its report to City Council, and I met with them early this year to go over in sort of a work session what was in there and what the recommendations were. I don't know how many people here have seen this report. Most of you have seen it? Oh, okay, good. There are a couple items in there that relate to the Planning Commission. Number 8, which says encourage the Planning Commission to continue its efforts to promote economic development in the core commercial, that's the CC, and service, the S zoning districts, by reduced setbacks, increased lot coverage, and mixed commercial residential construction, which is allowed residential on second floor of retail businesses. Actually, we had already done that down there. And we also increased the lot coverage that's allowed there not too long ago. We didn't do anything about decreasing setbacks. But this is really something that I think City Council, these are recommendations to City Council. And it's up to City Council to decide whether they would like any kind of follow-up on that. I think that's how I'm going to interpret this as opposed to us just doing it. And then also on item number 10, revise the zoning ordinance to make signage options more business friendly. And this really was something that came from the folks who rent the units in the Keenan Marina building. They say that they can't be seen from cars driving down the road adequately. And I think the answer to that is they got to convince Keenan to put a sign up there in front, like there's at Leppings, where all their businesses are listed there. So I don't know what city councils. I shared that with you, at City Council. Councilman, you.
I think council is certainly aware that we're gonna have to do something with that corridor because we've also got a brewery that's been approved to go in the Keenan Marine building. And we have Pine Street Cafe that if you go through the corner on your way to Muskegon, you'd never even know there was a restaurant there, let alone a candy shop or the brewery or anything else. So we're gonna have to do something. I don't know what. I keep on giving it thought.
I just wanted you to be aware that there are a couple things in here in the recommendations that City Council may send to us and say, why don't you guys think about this or do something about it.
Enough in that report that is relevant to what we just acted on tonight.
Other than we want development, there is
Yes.
something in there along 174th Street.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's on here. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's my comments. Members, reports, comments.
Jobs you're gonna put in front of your building, but we'd be here all night. I mean, I know those rules are there for a purpose, and really I appreciate it because this is a wonderful city to live in and grow your family, and it's not a commercial mess. We have a lot of small businesses that are here that are family owned, and it's not just homogeneous, and I think that's largely due to all these rules that we have. So that's all I have to say.
We are adjourned. Thank you all.
like those? You know, my girls keep me cool. My girls